everyone. Welcome to another episode of Arena Talks. Today we will talk about Topgun Maverick, and my guest today is Kevin Thomas. After more than 30 years of service as one of the Navy top aviators, Pete Maverick Mitchell is where he belongs, pushing the envelope as a courageous test pilot and dodging the advancement in rank that would ground him. Training a detachment or graduate for a special assignment, Maverick must confront the ghosts of his past and his deepest fears, culminating in a mission that demands the ultimate sacrifice from those to fly it. Well, everyone, let's welcome Kevin. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Better than it was yesterday.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. Well, today it's Topgun Maverick, and I think a lot of people have already seen it. So let me start with, what do you think of the movie?
Typical Hollywood adventure action savoir-faire. It's a good patriotic movie, for Americans to go see. Typical of the genre. A lot of action, a lot of excitement, not too much realistic military stuff. But if you did an honest to God military film based on the U.S. military, any branch, honestly, you would be bored to tears.
Okay. So did you watch the movie as like a veteran or as just a fan of Top Gun?
Both.
Both.
I mean, Tom Cruise's character, Pete Mitchell, he's been in the Navy now 30 plus years, and he's only captain. And it's probably the one thing that in the series, in the movie, when it opens up, he's being interviewed by the two-star admiral, played by Ed Harris. How come you're not at least a 2-star by now? And he says, interesting things. Yeah, obviously, he's a bad boy. He's not got a. Let's just put it this way: he's probably not got a Navy Good Conduct medal. And in that case, he's the kind of guy I'd probably work for, because if I was assigned to him, because he gets it done. He doesn't know when to quit, and it's no holds barred. Just get there, get the operation done, get out. I can respect that.
Well, I was wondering that too, because you see that those high-ranking officers wanted him out of the Navy, out of the military, and he wanted to stay. Is it even possible that he can flying that well at that age, or can he be flying at that age? Okay.
Yes. Most CAGs, as they call them aboard a carrier, Commander Air Group, is usually commander or above rank, which would be 05 or above. Sometimes some of them are even 06s, a captain. I don't know if your fans want to hear how we describe the military ranking system in the Navy, because it's totally different from the Army and the Marine Corps and the Air Force and everybody else. It's different. But our idea of a captain is everybody else's idea of a colonel. Get the idea. Our captains wear the eagle on the lapel. And just fine folks know at home, I was a chief petty officer, served 23 years, United States Navy. I am now retired. My official title was Chief Gunner's Mate.
Okay, nice. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
The movie isn't accurate at all in perspective as of the military.
I wouldn't necessarily, not 100% accurate. I would say it was probably about 75%. because you're generally dealing with officers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like trying to herd cats sometimes. But yeah, from a perspective of Maverick, if he's basically living by a reputation, and he's basically got, you know, one of the few fighter pilots that's actually been in combat. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they dole on him to train the younger guys, which is why he's at Top Gun school. And the interesting part of it is, you know, Fighter Town, USA, which used to be Miramar, California. I don't know if they still have it out there or not. That's where they all went for Top Gun school. But yeah, most of the command staff out there were all pilots that had been in Vietnam and were, you know, had confirmed air-to-air kills and all that stuff. But, you know, those guys cycle out, and after a while, you didn't have nobody left that had any combat training or combat knowledge. So, you know, but for the most part, that's the kind of stuff they go through out there. Although some of his flying was really what you'd call wow. I mean, 300 feet, not 100 feet off the deck. When
Yeah.
he's coming in that opening scene, he's coming into that canyon. He's literally a couple 100 feet off the deck and doing damn near Mach 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
When you
because
start pulling them 8 and 9 Gs like that, whoo.
I was wondering too if that is even possible with a F-18. Because that is not what we civilians.
It's pushing a Hornet. It's pushing a Hornet.
Mm.
It's F-14 went out of service somewhere in the early 2000s, and the Hornet came in, and then later on the Super Hornet, which is a two-seater. The only reason they went to the Hornet was basically A, 14 was getting old, and B, the Hornet was better suited for ground attack than the Tomcat.
Mm.
It wasn't until like the last two variations of the Tomcat that she was actually set up to run bombing missions. She was mostly just air-to-air. And so they brought the Hornet out, and it wasn't even half the lifespan of the Tomcat. The Navy found out the Hornets were starting to take a beating because the carrier landings are not easy on the plane, let alone the pilot. Because literally, you just basically go into what I call a control. They call a controlled crash. You come in, and all of a sudden you cut power, and you literally go quick off the damn deck. And you have to literally land on one of 4 arresting wires, and that tail hook catches one. That's how you stop. That's how you land on a carrier. Otherwise, you just go whip right off the end of that thing. So that's why they've now got the F-35 Lightning. I haven't heard back on that yet as to how it's working out. I know they had problems with it. But the F-35B and the F-35C are supposedly out already. As far as pushing, yeah, the Hornet can do, you know, Mach 1, Mach 2, you know, Mach 3. When you start pushing the high, but that's about it. I don't know if you can do Mach 5 in it.
So later in the film, we see what actually the mission is and how they have to deal with it. From your point of view, is that even doable with the planes they are flying?
Yes.
Okay.
Laser guided munitions are extremely accurate.
Okay. So I think what a thing that is real famous from Top of the movies is of course the intro theme. What do you think about that?
Always did like the Top Gun intro theme. Always did. Matter of fact, when I first seen the movie was 1986, and that was prior to me enlisting in the Navy. The first movie came out. So you can say, yeah, Top Gun was one of the reasons I joined the Navy, although I never served aboard a carrier and never was attached to a fighter wing or anything like that. I was attached to a battleship, USS Missouri, and actually preferred that to being on a flat top. Simply reason was, carrier life can be extremely boring and extremely exciting all at the same time.
Mm.
And when you step out on the flight deck, you're on the most dangerous 3/4 of a mile of a United States soil you ever want to see in your life, because that flight deck never stops.
Mm. So what I was wondering, in the beginning of the movie, we see Tom Cruise going on the motor to the test center for this flight of Mach 9. But you see his flight jacket with all those patches on. Is that even possible? Because that's not something I'm familiar with. Did you? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. He's been there, done that. You're in the Navy 30, 35, 40 years like that. Yeah, you've probably been around. I'll have to send you a picture of my jacket that I got on Missouri.
We had the first movie, and then the announcement came of that the second and the third movie were in the making. What's your feeling about that?
Oh, there's going to be a third one?
Yeah, it's already in the making.
I'm all for it. I liked the first one. The first one was really good. The second one I thought was better in so much that it was more of a, not just Pete Mitchell or Maverick, it a squadron type thing, and they had to work as a team. I'm eager to find out what the third one's going to be about. Are we finally going to war with Russia? No. Ain't going to happen.
Well, we see, and also in the first and the second, and as well in this movie, we see that there was a lot of rivalries between the pilots. So at first it was between Iceman and Pete Mitchell, and so
that's normal.
That's normal.
That
okay.
Normal. But you got to understand something about that. It's good-natured rivalry. Once they get up there in the air, they're on a team. They're on the same team.
Yeah.
But when they're down on the ground, it's like any other sport. It's almost like professional sports. Everybody says they're the best. I'm the best. I'm better than you. You're better, And it goes back and forth, And sometimes, it does get heated. Yeah, sometimes you get in a fight. Hell, I've never been in a bar yet that I haven't seen at least one guy get in a fight about something stupid. But yeah, I mean, it's just how you say, it's a camaraderie thing, but at the same time, it's also I don't want to say frat boy type mentality, but you got a bunch of young hotshots, basically anywhere from 20 to 22, 23 years of age. And the testosterone is over the top. And these young hot dogs are out there, and they want to prove themselves. It's normal in the military. At least when I was in, anyway, back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah,
I think that will not change in a way.
It has, from what I'm hearing, it's a lot more subdued. But the rivalry as well is still there. Everybody's going for that top spot. So on and so forth. Because at the end of the film, they said somebody got 2 kills. This one got 2 kills, and the female pilot walks up and she says, "Well, Mav got 5, so he's an ace." That's true. 5 kills.
So what do you think of the scene when Maverick went to his team to have that plane in the air? What was, I think, a nice one. It reminded me of the plane of X-Men. And then, of course, the Admiral came personally to them to shut the project down, because he was more of the drone thing. So what are your thoughts about that?
That's entirely possible. I mean, we've been playing with the idea of hypersonic flight for some time now. It's no secret that there might be an experimental jet out there that can do Mach 10. But at the same time, it's going to rattle your bones like there's no tomorrow. I mean, we had the SR-71, and then there was the Aurora, and I don't know what the hell they're using now for spy plane, But I know SR-71 was quite capable of hitting 4,000 miles an hour easily. And she'd get up around 40,000 feet. You wouldn't see her, but you'd hear her. Sonic boom. And the Aurora, I forget what the hell they called that thing, had a different kind of engine. It was a pulse style engine. It would fire and then it would almost go out. And then it would fire again and it would go out. And it would fire again and go out. And that was about the only thing I knew about that plane. Before all that, we had the U-2, and that actually got captured by the Soviets back in the day. But it's entirely possible that plane, that whatever he was flying, super secret skunk works stuff, yeah, I don't doubt it. I'm not going to confirm it, but I don't doubt it. I mean, yes, what is it? The Raptor is quite capable of hitting Mach 5 plus.
At that particular scene, Maverick still goes off to do the test. Don't you think he's still Daredevil because of he's supposed to be going to Mark 9 or 10, and he just pushed a little further to see what the plane really can do. Mm-hmm. But then he almost blew himself up.
That's Maverick. He's always pushing himself. And he'll push that envelope until it pops. And also, throughout the entire series, he still hasn't let go of Goose. So that's kind of a little bit of PTSD.
I was wanted to mention that because when you see his interaction with Goose's son,
Rooster, yeah.
You really see that there's a lot of trauma behind it, and there were some moments that I was thinking, "Ooh, that's looks like PTSD."
It is. It was. He still hadn't let go. Even the scene between him and Val Kilmer, when they met up.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer told him, let go. It's time to let go. So yeah, it still held him back a little bit because he remembered, he messed up. Or no, he actually didn't mess up. In the first movie, he flew through the jet wash up another plane, and that cut off the airflow to his engines. So the F-14 went to a flat spin, and they had to eject. He got out, but when the canopy popped, it hit Goose in the back of the head and broke his neck. Possibility of that happening is rare, but it can. I call it just dramatic effects for Hollywood. So yeah, he still hadn't let go of him, even though at the end of the movie he tossed Goose's dog tags over the side of the carrier. But at the same time, I'm like, they brought it back so to create a sense of PTSD for one, and a sense of something was nagging at him, something was holding him back, something was keeping him from just doing. I'm curious to see what the third movie is going to be about now. I do love sequels, but I mean, it's been long enough since between 1 and 2, because 1 came out in the 80s during the heyday of the Navy and the Reagan era, and now we have this one coming out now during the time of unknown, as I like to call it. So if they come out with another one, say, what? I hope they don't wait 40 years. I'm going to be an old man by then. But I hope they come out with it in, say, the next 5 years. It should be really interesting. I mean, there's been other Navy pictures come out between now and then that I really enjoy. But this, I've always had a soft spot for Top Gun because it showed a part of the Navy that everybody knew about. It was glamorous, but at the same time, extremely dangerous.
Yeah. So what did you think of the scene when Goose and Maverick they were shut down and they were trying to escape and they started up that F-14, which was Maverick's old.
Here's the problem I have with that particular scene. He was being tracked by a Soviet Hind Model D gunship, and Rooster fired whatever missile he had left on his F-18 before he went down. It took out the Hind, which didn't surprise me completely and totally, but I know the Hind gunship, and that thing is armored like there's no tomorrow. And it's usually bristling with guns and all kinds of craziness. But they took that out, and then they're down in the snow and they're on the run and all this stuff. And I'm like, where the hell is the enemy patrols at? They know they just got a guy down. There should be enemy patrols out looking for him. Foot soldiers, whatever you want to call them. That's one problem I didn't have. And they just happened to walk up, and wherever this place was, it was all fictional. This happened to be sitting in F-14, happened to be sitting there, and I'm like, how convenient is this?
Yeah.
You couldn't just swipe an Su-57 or whatever the hell the enemy plane was supposed to be, which didn't look like an Su-57. Of course, what do I know? But I'm looking at this, and I'm like, well, look here. And they say, yeah, how are we going to get that old badass back up in the old Brewster says, how are we going to get that old badass back up in the air? And he's like, Maverick just turned around. Yeah, I used to fly him. Of course, when he got on it, half the stuff didn't work. Half the avionics was out. The radio was out and all this stuff. So then he told them how to they were going to jump start off the generator and pull the plug at the last minute and then grab the ladder and get in the plane. And I thought, that ain't an easy thing to do from what I've talked to Airedales. That's what we call guys that worked on airplanes, Airedales. And, but they got it up, and they got up near in a short run, and I'm like, yeah, he literally had to do what they call a vertical takeoff. An F-14 runs down the runway, full burn, and then all of a sudden just goes straight up. I've seen him do it. It's first time you do it will scare the living hell out of you when you see it. The second time you do it, you're like, oh, cool, dude, somebody's going vertical. And they literally do go straight up. And he got away with that. It was just rather convenient because he brought the old dog back in the fight, or old cat. I liked seeing it. I always did like the Tomcats.
When I was wondering also, why did the U.S. Navy for aviators just have an F-18 and let's say the bad guys had a supersonic plane that was way better than the F-18s? Or is that just like a civil person that would say of?
Well, possibly given the time of the movie, I'm not sure, but I'm surprised they didn't have any F-35s. That's all the Navy's got right now is F-18s and F-35s. And, they got the F-18As and Bs and so on. They got Super Hornets as well. That's the two-seater. And I think the only reason why they didn't field an F-35 was probably because they didn't want to, and probably the Department of Defense probably said, no. Secondly, like I said, I'm not 100% sure if it was an Su-57 or if it wasn't. Either way, I know in the old movie it was F-4s versus F-14s, and everybody's like, or F-5s, excuse me. And I was like, yeah, the little what the hell do they call them damn things? These little bitty fighter jets. Yeah, they were quite capable of taking out a 14. I mean, they were highly maneuverable, nimble, and all this stuff. But then again, so was a 14. I mean, it was pretty much edged on. But I guess they wanted to make it look like the Navy was, or not the Navy, but the good guys were kind of behind the times. We were. We didn't have the advantage. Although, if you look at what a 14 is really capable of, he says, the guy asked him, he says, can a Tomcat really take on a Su-57? And Maverick turns around, he's using a 14 against a Gen 5. I'm like, well, you're talking Gen 3 fighter versus Gen 5 fighter. And then he said, well, it's not just the plane, it's the pilot. And I thought, yeah, and if that F-14 was anywhere near what it should be as far as upkeep and maintenance and all that stuff, taking out an Su-57 should be child's play for it. Because it was one of the few jet fighters that were actually tagged as an interceptor. because they could fly that fast. They could do Mach 5 plus. And it was designed to go high altitude. It was also designed to chase down missiles. It was also designed to engage whatever, like the MiG-29, the Fulcrum, which they said was every bit the epitome and equivalent to an F-14. I don't know. We never found out. Thank God. I know it wasn't an F-30. I know it wasn't a MiG-31. MiG-31 could go from 0 to upper atmosphere in a very short period of time. But that was the plane the Soviets designed to shoot down B-2 bombers. That was also tagged as an interceptor. Same time, the Tomcat could literally lock on and track 6 to 7 targets at one particular time and fire on those targets. And she was strictly air to air. I mean, unless it was a J, 14J or 14A. Or 14J. The last one's made. And there are still Tomcats out there. In service. Well, they're not in service. They're out there. Iran has a bunch of them, but they can't fly them.
Okay.
Thank God.
So the mission that they are carrying out, it seems like a difficult mission to fly, but is that even possible?
Yes.
Okay.
But basically, they're flying low altitude to avoid the SAM sites, surface air missiles. You seen them missiles sitting up on the rocky tops? That's what they call a SAM, surface to air missile. And the new ones now are basically all remote. You set and forget, and they track. And as soon as they see something coming inbound that ain't friendly, or has it got a transponder that sends off a friendly frequency, they fire off missiles. They're just their first line of air defense on most countries. So they're coming in below, 5,000 feet, something like that, hugging the ground, going through tunnels, going through trestles on bridges. That was that was thrown in there just to show off a little bit. And they get the munitions, they drop the bombs on the right spot, which kind of blew my mind because right after they launched, they had to get down to almost to the deck on the sea level because all of a sudden all these Ticonderoga class cruisers were launching Tomahawks. And the problem I have with that is you can actually fly a Tomahawk from inside somewhere in the command area of the cruiser, inside what they call the CIC. You can sit there with a joystick and actually fly that thing like a model plane. And it has the camera built in. So I'm like, as accurate as these things are, you could have literally put these things right on the button. You would have never had to launch one plane. But I guess they did. You know how Hollywood is. They got to have the dramatic effect. They got to send their fighters in, or the bombers in this case, drop their payload, hit that little pinpoint, and okay, fine, whatever. But the fact of it is, missile technology has grown such leaps and bounds now. It's literally, if you can see it, you can still hit it, and it could be on the other side of the globe.
So how do you feel about it now that nowadays they are using more drones instead of, if I can be a little bit rude about it, is just human to do those things?
Well, as with anything in the military, it's the lesser of two evils. You take the human element out of the picture, so therefore you're not putting somebody's life at risk. Secondly, I call it kind of a chicken shit way of doing things. I mean, you're not going in and facing the enemies like it was back in the good old days. This thing just basically, I don't know if it's a global hawk, predator, whatever you want to call them. This thing just hovers around. It's got a camera on it. It's got a missile on it, usually a Hellfire or something like that. Doesn't have any guns or anything like that, but it can carry a missile. Or it can be actually loaded down with a bomb. I'm not sure a bomb, or if it can be made explosive. It just drove right into it like the Soviets did over there in Ukraine just recently. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it takes the human element out of the picture so nobody's at risk. But at the same time, it's kind of like you kind of every now and then you kind of look up in the sky and kind of look for that little, hear that little going on, and it's kind of like, I need to go back inside. I mean, when Amazon said they were going to start delivering packages via drones, by them helicopter style drones, yeah, and I can just see it around this neck of the woods where I live here in the Midwest in the United States. There are going to be guys out there with their shotguns going skeet shooting. What's that? Boom.
So, the rating of this movie by IMDb is an 8.4. What will you give this movie? What rating?
I give it a solid 7.
Okay.
It's a lot of fantasy, but there is some truth to it.
Okay.
Most of the human interaction and all that stuff, the camaraderie, the animosity animosity would be a good word. The competition between pilots, that's all true. That's all true. Some of the military echelon, they had mostly admirals and captains and stuff like that. And I'm kind of like, you're actors, gentlemen. You don't know what that is to be an admiral. Actually, that one guy was a 3-star. He's a vice admiral. Vice admiral. He's out there at Top Gun School. And I'm like, this really rate a fucking 3-star? Pardon my language. Vice admirals usually don't get into stuff like that. It's got to be a pretty good sized base to have a 3-star on board.
Is there anything you like to add in all this of Top Gun episode?
I thought it was a good addition to the franchise. It was very Top Gun. Yeah, it was very Top Gun. Didn't get any other aspects of the Navy. Just strictly fighter pilots, fighter planes, aircraft carriers. Yeah, I don't like aircraft carriers. We call them bomb magnets for a reason. But for the most part, yeah, it's kind of a look into present day situation, and that we have fallen behind the times as far as jet technology, missile technology, and so on and so forth. But I'm not going to get into the political aspect of it.
So can we also say that the Top Gun that we see in the movie is that, I don't want to say comparing with the real Top Gun, but is the movie a little bit accurate in that to how they present civilians what Top Gun really is?
No. Because Top Gun School is there to train aviators in how to pick up the skills of dogfighting. 2, the Top Gun trophy doesn't get awarded; it stays, because then you basically give one guy this trophy. No, you don't want to do that. You want to give him the big head. Expand his silliness. The Top Gun trophy. You go there. If you go there to the place, I'm not sure if it's open to civilians, but there is a wall there of all the Top Gun people down through the years since Vietnam, who was the Top Gun of the class. And basically what their job is to go back out to the fleet and teach all the other pilots what they've learned. That's the whole premise behind this, by Top Gun School. You take the top fighter pilots from each and every squadron, bring them in, put them head to head, see who's the very top of the top, and that guy wins, and then his job is to basically teach everybody else what he's learned. From a civilian standpoint, they think it's a bunch of glory hounds, a bunch of goddamn hot dogs and that sort of thing, hot shots, if you want to call them. No, these are just honest to God everyday pilots, but they do have that cocky attitude, and that's exactly what you want in a pilot. But as far as what they show civilians, it's basically Hollywood trying to satisfy your need for speed and your craving for a little bit of destruction and so on and so forth, and some very, very nice cinematography for 2 hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Okay.
I mean, like when they did the movie Battleship Hell. They rolled Missouri
What do
out
you
of
think
fucking...
about that?
Huh?
What do you think about that movie?
Oh, I loved it. I was
That
on that
crossed my
ship.
mind too.
But the simple fact of it is, you got a skeleton crew there on a ship that's designed to be manned by 1,500 people. And you're
Yeah.
telling me you've got all 8 boilers fired up that fast? No, I don't believe that for 5 minutes. And you've got all 50,000 tons of her rolling out of Diamond Head at flank speed? Nope, nope, nope. You don't do that either. You don't come out of Diamond Head doing flank speed. It's not a straight shot. You got to go around a corner or two.
Yeah.
But the premise of it was, they took on these aliens, and they found out that all that high technology that they had didn't work because the aliens would pop the EMPs, electromagnetic pulse discharges, and that would kill all your electronics, so your missiles wouldn't track, your missiles couldn't lock onto a target. So all of your Tomahawk cruise missiles and all your missile technology was dead, basically. And the one thing that saved them was the fact that Missouri was still all analog, i.e., like a basic clock on the wall. And you had to wind it up every now and then. And 16-inch shells, I don't care who says what, 16-inch shells, you can pop anything you want. You're not going to deflect that monster once it starts heading your way. Because it weighs anywhere between 1,800 and 2,700 pounds. Projectile range is 23 plus miles. Everybody says, well, that's 23. That's not very far. And I said, well, actually, it's over. We can shoot over the horizon with those guns. Yes. And they said, well, I said, how? Well, back in the day, they had spotters and they had planes and they had people ashore. They give you coordinates. As long as we were close enough, yeah. And we could be 20 plus miles out. And then all of a sudden you hear this. And then suddenly a small neighborhood explodes. But yeah, I mean, it was a good movie. It was a tribute to the old battleship. How much of a pounding she could take, and at the same time, it was kind of proof of the pudding that the Iowa class is still the deadliest ship out there. I don't care who says what. You can talk to me about the Arleigh Burke, and you can talk to me about Ticonderoga. Yeah, it doesn't matter. If you get into a full-on duel with an Iowa, you're history. And in 86, 85, 84, well, Reagan, when he first got elected, he wanted the 600-ship Navy. And that was about the same time the Soviets unleashed that missile cruiser, that battle cruiser, that one like the one got sunk over there in Ukraine, the Muska. I think that was a Kirov class. And she was every bit 25,000 tons displaced. So she was the size of an old World War II heavy cruiser. When they unleashed that, Reagan said, I want the battleships back in action. Do whatever you got to do to modernize them. So they got their own suite of Harpoon anti-ship missiles and Tomahawk cruise missiles. And while we were over in Iraq, we were launching missiles as well as 16-inch 16-inch bombardments from out to sea. It was a good movie. There was some hokiness to it. These aliens were unstoppable, impregnable, and all this stuff. But they found in the end that ancient technology actually still works. 70-year-old battleships out there laying low this alien hunk of junk. I liked the movie. I really did. I mean, I won't lie to you. Guys talked me into going to it because I thought it was basically like the board game. Yeah, they're bringing out a battle. Oh, okay. It's called Battleship. You mean like the board game? Yeah. I ain't going to go see that. Hell no, I'm going to do this B1 nonsense. So he goes, yeah, you need to go see this, Chief. You're going to love this. It's got your girlfriend in it. And I said, my girlfriend? He said, Missouri. No. Yeah. Oh, I'm going. Well, even though, like I said, what I said about getting her out into the ocean from there, it was all Hollywood.
Yeah.
But the thing was this, when they did that, yeah, my back row, which was basically all those old farts, or old salts, if you want to call us, are grumpy old sailors. The whole back row just lit up like, oh yeah, something gonna get his ass kicked. Oh yeah, when Missouri fired up the screws, the propellers, and she started out, I was like, oh, poop. Somebody gonna kiss the donkey. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those movies where I was on my feet cheering to see the old girl back out there slugging it out.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, and it must be fun if you have the same people who, what's the word? Never mind. But it must be fun that to have the same interactions with that, and knowing that people are still giving her the thumbs up.
Mm-hmm. There are people still out there today. I've seen this on millions and millions and millions of posts online and other places. Would love to see the battleship come back in the action.
Hmm.
Now more so than ever because you got all these other clowns out there trying to push their weight around. And all we have is carriers, cruisers, and destroyers. And what the Navy has put out there so far in the last few years hasn't been all that impressive. The little littoral combat ships, they've already been scrapped. The Zumwalt class destroyer, there's like 3 or 4 of them, and that's all that's going to be built. There were supposed to be 33 of them vessels built to replace the 4 Iowa class battleships because they supposedly had advanced guns, advanced missiles, advanced everything. Come to find out, too expensive to build. None of the 3 or 4 ships that are on service right now share the same hull design. So in order to repair it, you have to make all new parts. In other words, you can't just go from part to part to part to part. Everything has to be refitted in a dock facility or a dry dock or whatever you want to call it. There was talk about bringing the Perry class frigate back, which they just did retire like about 2 years ago, but I don't think that's going to happen. Which is but in its own little class, Perry class. Everybody says, "Oh, it's just a frigate." I said, "USS Stark was a frigate." Yeah, so I said, "Look at the history. Back during the Battle of the Falklands, USS Stark took an Exocet missile to her hull and managed still to limp back to port." Yeah, so she's one tough little warship. And, everybody says, "Well, it's a frigate. It's not got much." I said, "It's got enough."
Yeah.
And I said, "You don't want to mess with a Perry class." They said, "Well, and the Navy has extended the life of the Arleigh Burke for at least another 2 to 5 years. I think they're going to still build Arleigh Burkes, and they keep updating the design and all that. I don't know about Ticonderogas. I think their day is done. There's supposedly a new frigate on the drawing board. There's supposedly a new destroyer on the drawing board. I don't know about cruisers. I mean, the Navy's gotten kind of silly and, well, no, I'll say it right. They've gotten stupid in the last few years. They want their carriers, though. USS Ford finally launched, what was it, last year, after sitting in dock for almost 2 or 3 years because she couldn't get out under her own power. What? Now, everybody lost their mind. Everybody kind of got bent out of shape because they decided to retire and scrap USS Enterprise. Now, I know all you Trekkies out there probably just went, "You can't do that." Don't worry. CVN 80 is being 8 something. CVN something 8 something is being built. There will be another Enterprise.
Good to know.
As they said in the movies, there will always be an Enterprise.
Well, I think we covered a little bit what we wanted to talk about. So, Kevin, thank you very much for joining me.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
And I hope we can talk soon again.
Sure, no problem. Any of your fans got any questions, comments, or complaints? Well, yeah, you know where to take them to. Questions, okay. Comments, okay. Complaints, well, there's a file 13 for that.
Dear listeners, thank you for listening, and join me in 2 weeks for a new episode of Arena Talks. The next episode is about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie 2017. This is also the last episode of this year, and I'd like to wish you a Happy New Year. The next episode is about Cobra Kai. You can listen, subscribe, and comment to Arena Talks on the YouTube channel or join the Facebook group. I'd also like to tell you about my other podcast called Girls Talking Track. Girls Talking Track is a podcast hosted by 2 female trackers who will recap every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek, starting with TNG. All the episodes will be recapped in chronological following. Girls Talking Track is also to listen, follow and subscribe on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or on your favorite podcast app. We also have a Facebook group and YouTube channel. Every 10th episode will be a video episode, so you guys can see us when we talk about the episode. If you'd like to comment on the episode or talk with us about the Star Trek episode we just recapped, you can reach us on the Facebook group and the YouTube channel. I'll see you in 2 weeks. A little note, you can hear puppy sounds in the background. That's because since 6 weeks we have a new puppy. And his name is Mordred, and today he's 14 weeks old. So if you hear dog noises or other puppy noises, know that it is Mordred.